This week in disc golf, Champions Cup stumbles to a finish. Presnell shocks most with his first major victory. Tatar goes 0 for 2 in majors this year. Players speak out about the decisions made to continue play. Safety measures bans carts and disc golf bags at DDO, and so much more. What's going on, all you disc generates? It's Swiss Cheese with the disc golf world. You know, the one with all the holes in his game. Jefferson, the minivan, and I are back home from tour, but our coverage doesn't stop. You're watching This Week in Disc Golf, where we cover all things disc golf from the past week. So much to hit on, but before we start, a quick thank you for watching, the subscribers, and all those on the Patreon. But let's jump in already. Champions Cup, a force-fed, 3-year-old PDGA major that lacks the history or prestige, and even less fan excitement or engagement, could not have had a more unexpected and often comedic journey to Northwood Park in Morton, Illinois, featuring an unfortunate beetle infestation causing not only the rebuilding of W.R. Jackson, but the relocation and rescheduling of this year's Champions Cup. Add another rescheduling after an embarrassing PR gaffe in the PDGA completely forgetting or ignoring the European Tour coinciding with the previous date, but certainly the unfortunate events and the past missteps will be forgotten with great play and fan turnout, right? Instead, the event saw poor weather causing delays, worse conditions, an absolute sad spectator turnout, and a major event further marred with leadership decisions to continue play on day 2 despite players voicing safety concerns. And no, we're not talking about rolling ankles, wet tee pads, or dealing with muddy conditions. More like dodging branches and falling limbs like they're Tetris pieces on the course. The debated decision to restart would have returning players not only play in what some felt were unsafe conditions, that it was fortunate that no one got hurt, but also the knowledge that when the horn sounds, they would need to return the first thing in the morning to finish the round and another full round later that day, making an already difficult 4-day straight at Northwood Park, the proclaimed hardest course on tour, even more laborious for the pros. On a track that was difficult for many fans to get behind as it saw many pros struggle mightily. The final day had play and players look as shook and beaten down as Joey Tremali's live feed, some even looking for the exit to get onto the road, or for some a flight home. Yet through all the turbulence, still found 2 major winners, one winning their first ever, and even a few positive storylines. But overall, a letdown for the first major event of the season. Heading into the event, you had an Eagle McMahon return from injury and a new sponsor debut, where his return got progressively worse as the weekend carried on until a 12 over day 3 and him not making the cut. All the chatter surrounding Ken Kelvin Heimberg finally win a major, which despite everyone giving it a chance on the final day, never came to fruition and will be brought up again at Worlds. Most of the action and talk didn't surround the big names in the game on both the MPO and FPO, as Northwood would humble most. Casey White sprinted out of the gates with a 7 under, 1058 rated round with 9 birdies. A surprise for the fans who ignored his prior success on the course. Had a great start on round 2 before the round was split, but still maintained a 3-stroke lead heading into the round later that day. Casey wasn't the only dark horse candidate in the running, as the entire day 3 lead card had 0 Elite Series or major victories in their career. Joey Anderson, better known for his bucket hats he wears than his play, as he vies for a DGPT championship run. Ezra Robinson, who has only one outside top 20 finish this season, and Andrew Presnell, the tour grinder who Hollywood would hire to portray a 1950s milkman. Casey would look like he would pull away early with 3 quick birdies, but whose back half fell apart, about as bad as that Palpatine Returns shit in The Rise of Skywalker. Trust me, Casey gets it. Presnell delivered with a 6 under round that was second to only Ezra Adderhold. The effort moved him to the top of the leaderboard at 11 under for the tournament, heading into the final day, which had everyone reacting the same as Yuli's caddy.
Birdie, and I'm 2 under.
Fresno's in the lead?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Nicholas Antala, like he has done at seemingly every major, moved onto the lead card with a 5 under and 3 strokes behind Presnell. Ezra and Joey landed a stroke off the lead at 10 under, but much of the talk were the names from Chase Card and Ricky Wysocki, Kelvin Heimberg, and Chris Dickerson. Ricky made things interesting early, as the lead card had a slow start, but for most of the time, the race was between Nicholas and Presnell. Nicholas trying to break through this time at a major where he's taken second place 2 times prior, and Presnell with a new putter after he completely airmailed his into a stream on hole 5. Presnell was consistent throughout the week, managed the lows better than any other player on the weekend, never scoring more than 2 bogeys in a round while also not recording a double bogey or worse for the entire tournament. Hit the fairways and delivered in key moments to stay in the lead, playing in control and with confidence from a player who never finished in the top 20 of a major prior to this weekend. Every time Antala would close the gap for it to be manageable, there would be a costly air result resulting in a bogey, as the action never saw Presnell's lead get closer than 2 strokes. As holes began to run out, Nicklaus had to get more aggressive, and a bogey on 17 sealed the victory for Presnell, as he was able to walk the win in on 18. And yes, I purposefully left off that Presnell putt on 16. No need to discuss it, as no one called it. The soft-spoken tour vet was stoic in his acceptance speech, letting little emotion show on the biggest victory of his career, as the rest of us were still processing. The victory not only gave him the largest payday, but also an immediate promotion to the elite team in mid-season. An incredible gesture by Discraft in support of their player, and unheard of in the game. In classic fashion, Presnell celebrated by heading home to play in a local league before heading to Kansas for DDO. For Antala, this is his third second-place finish at a major in the past 3 seasons. And after an Ezra bogey on 18, both he and Ricky would have a share of third place.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you just got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This man is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.
Over in the FPO, Silva Saarinen, following her breakout lead card performance at MCO the week prior, would finish round 1 atop the leaderboard with a 5 under. The young Finnish player would be one of a number of breakout performances from international players over the weekend. Though the young player would not find the same success over the next 2 rounds, did challenge for a podium finish on the final day with a 3 under round and furthering her status in the FPO. Rachel Turton of Great Britain also made a splash when she tied Tatar for the lead after round 2. Both Rachel and Silva had strong European Pro Tour and Euro Tour finishes last year, showing the best overseas can push the competition here in America. As not only did these two have solid performances, but also saw 6 international players finish in the top 10, including the winner over the entire weekend. Day 3 saw Evelina Salonen make a huge statement with a 7 under on the day, the best round of the tournament, and a 2-stroke lead over Kristen Tatar, who also put together her best round on day 3 of 4 under. For those Tatar 1,000 rated watchers, she averaged below 1,000 rated for the entire weekend, so it looks as though she's another month away. The final round was terrible for Evelina, shooting 2 over on the front 11 holes. But with 2/3 of the lead card shooting worse, like Tatar, or the same in Turton with a distance from Own, Evelina only needed to worry about her best friend from poaching a victory. Don't get me wrong, Evelina tried everything in her power to give up the lead, with some brutal birdie misses from C1X that would have sealed the victory, and her also going into the rough on her drive, needing only par after Henna Blumroos's eagle on 18 cut the lead down to a single stroke. Evelina would regain her composure and walked in for her second major victory of her career. This one without an asterisk, as many felt the field at the Konopiste victory was too small. Evelina has become what most have been hoping for in a challenger to Tatar, but most still untrusting despite this being her second victory to Tatar's 3, with the same amount of podiums on the season. Own with a birdie on 18 tied Henna for a second place finish as the vet finds another way to get onto the podium. As for Tatar, after dominating the major circuit for a year plus, has yet to find victory or a podium finish at a major this season in 2 events. Yes, she has the most victories, and sure, no one is not making her the favorite at this year's Worlds or European Open. But for me, I certainly wouldn't make her a lock, as these past majors have highlighted her issues in tight-wooded courses this season. That in the field seems to only get stronger. Despite many of us wanting the Champions Cup to end, the players could not remain quiet about the events surrounding the tournament, and more specifically, the decision to continue play. Drew Gibson on his channel came out and criticized the decision-making of Nate Heinold, who he was informed to be the only one to make the deciding factor. A decision that I'm sure the Pro Player Committee was not included in during the debate to resume play. Casey White, while on staggered stance, was very critical of the decision-making of Nate Heinold, who he also named, but also further continued to highlight the conditions and just how unsafe they were to play in, going as far to say as he felt that player safety was not part of the decision-making in deciding whether or not to continue on day 2. Casey also stated he would have canceled the round while telling stories of limbs and branches nearly falling on Ricky and Evelina. I know on the final day I saw a lot of pros looking to the sky for precarious branches, and even saw a card going as far as contacting someone in leadership of concerns of possible falling limbs on hole 6. These forests are dense, where unattached limbs are held up by other trees throughout the course. With high winds knocking those and possibly dead trees, there are possible dangers on most holes. And sure, pros have been critical of decisions and moves by the PDGA and DGPT. However, more often than not reserved for the biggest names in the game, as smaller pros are more unwilling to speak out. Yet with more and more pros being vocal of the conditions of the game and their platforms growing, that allows them to not only share their stories amongst each other, but most importantly to the fans, while demanding the standards and further professionalization just might be the push needed for the game to ultimately improve at a faster pace than the sport has ever seen. With the DGPT and PDGA being ever so intertwined while providing few actual benefits to the professional players, it's up to the players to demand the change. Those who disagree will say the tournament payouts are at record highs and they bring money to the game and help in getting some of the largest contracts in the sport in the history of the game. Ignoring that payouts are top heavy and largely funded by the players, have brought in no new big money sponsors to the sport, seen attendance down all season, and haven't put forward tournament standards surrounding baskets, tee pads, with some representation at least being present for decisions surrounding play in adverse conditions and further player safety protocols, despite years of control. Also this week, with the tour shifting to Kansas, saw that the property will not be allowing disc golf bags or carts onto the property, highlighting what might be a new standard moving forward. Yet in the short term, might just be a response from the tournament leaders being forced to respond to DGPT demands for more security protocols after the events at MCO. For most stops, it might be easier to remove issues altogether than orchestrate volunteers to be looking into bags at gates. Of course, like nearly every decision, the reaction was split from disaster to about time. I get the many reasons that people bring bags in carts, an unfortunate but a needed response to a glaring lack of safety protocols found at every pro event I've ever attended, no matter how large or small. But now, let's get to some quick hitters. Cole Radallen, overall good dude, helped a stray dog Tyrone find a new forever home. Ricky Wysocki and Big Germ Coling relived how Ricky got his Saki Bomb nickname. I'm glad at least this one involved alcohol, like most guys' nicknames. Friends don't allow friends to lose their Lunas, even if you have to wade through 500 feet of creek water. Not all heroes wear capes. Adam Hanmis saves AB and the sport by finding his prized Luna. Casey White credits Foundation for giving him extra motivation like he's MJ facing the Pistons. Drew Gibson on the road tweeting about difficulties of road toilet paper. Now, Drew has been around the tour long enough to carry his own role of TP. As everyone knows, single ply don't fly. Discraft Shade Simon's Champions Cup predictions. Emerson Keith, like nearly every pro all of a sudden, joins the pro podcast fray with his own podcast called The Future Tour, where he and a guest pro interview young up-and-comers in the sport and possibly future pros. A cool concept unlike other pro podcast material, where he instead promotes the player, further storylines of the sport, while offering guidance over the professional play topics we are most used to hearing. And why not have the guy who still gets carded talking to teens that more often will be taller than him? Bert Kreischer, Cam Patterson, and other comedians get around him while on tour. Hopefully Cam can like disc golf as much as he likes rocks. And guys, that wraps up this week in disc golf. If you've enjoyed and not subscribed, make sure to do so, as it helps fund another tour leg and this channel. Make sure to like, comment, and share, and if you want more, make sure to check out all the previous episodes. And though our tour has halted, we will continue to bring you content and coverage your way with some incoming twists, but with our same hold nothing back approach, including some content that has been on the back burner while being so busy out on tour. Till then, we'll see you next time.